10-minute countdown starting now.
Okay, so first thing I have to do is just lay a little bit of groundwork before I get into the actual 7 steps. And that is to say that we basically look at acting in two skill sets, if you will. One is focus or attention. So the behavior is a result of what you're focusing on in any given moment, right? And then the second one is the past experience, which we already talked about when we talked about past experience defining your behavior. So a lot of the technique, the actor's algorithm, is based on identifying the relevant information to your character in a given moment, and then identifying the relevant past experience that drives the character's response or behavior in that moment. Nice. So how do we do that? How do we embody this character? Well, the very first thing we do, Alana, is we start out by identifying the differences between ourselves and our character. Now, I want to mention this too, because one really interesting, one benefit, one side benefit I hadn't counted on is when you start understanding sort of the mechanisms of the brain and brain functions, you learn some things that you can learn. You can actually optimize the way you use your brain to achieve specific tasks as actors. So the 7 steps have sort of these ideas built into them that actually makes the technique more effective and more efficient, which is kind of cool. And one of them is this: you only get to read the script once, the first time once, right? And so there's this idea that our brain is very turned on by novelty. So the very first thing we do in the brain-based script analysis is we circle the ideas of the words that have different meanings for the character than they have for us. And there's a nice little worksheet, and you circle those in the script and you write them in the worksheet. And the reason you do that, well, let me tell you what you do next. And the next thing you do is then you use a reframing method to adopt the new meaning for yourself as the character. And this is, to me, the most granular component of a individual's behavior is the words that they choose and the meanings that those words have for them. Those become the building blocks that we use later on when we start creating memories for the characters, and some other things. But it's a really important step. So I love that Alana pointed that out first. What is the different meaning for the character than myself? So we do that, then we adopt those meanings for ourselves using a reframing method. The next thing we do is when we get into the memory design, and we create the character's driving memory. Now, the driving memory is the character's perspective. And the way that we identify that is every story has a theme, right? Every story is written about a set of ideas. So Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is about lies and deceit. And if you were to play Brick, you would believe that lies and deceit are disgusting. If you were to play Maggie, you would believe that lies and deceit are okay if you're going to spare someone feeling. White lies are perfectly okay. It's preferable. So those two different perspectives about the theme of that particular story is what drives all the conflict between those characters. If you look at the scene, and it jumps to the surface if you've adopted the driving belief first. So the very first thing we do is we say, what is my character's belief in relation to the theme? And then what happened in that character's past in order for him or her to adopt that belief. And then we don't have time to do this today, but then we use an actual technique designed in collaboration with the neuroscientists to best encode that information as a memory, and we rehearse it so that we can retrieve it if we like, or we can allow it to be just unconsciously effective as well. But what's important about doing that at step 2 is it defines your perspective as you're looking through the discovery process. You'll be amazed at what you find when you create that first driving belief, when you create that first memory that determines your driving belief. I've had people do that in 2 minutes, say, I'm more connected to this character than I've ever been to any other character, even after playing them. Wow. So it's really, for some people, it's a very transformative technique and pretty exciting. Amazing. Okay, so that's where we start. Now, the next step is we design memories for events in the script. And this is actually a late addition to the technique. And I did this recently, and fairly recently in the last year. And I learned things about roles that I never noticed before by just taking the time to identify what the author said happened in the past, and then embodying that, then designing the memory for that so that I can live those past events. it is incredible how much you learn, and the author tells you so much
Yeah.
through this process. So that's the second
5 minutes,
thing we do.
David, just to let you know.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, thank you. Then the next thing we do is a step called we design memories for the primary elements of drama. Now, what we've done so far is set the mindset for the actor, for the actor to know the character as you're beginning your discovery process. This next step is the first time we look at scenes. Okay, and what we do is we identify the environment, the relationship, and the mood at the top of the scene. Those are the three things that you need to tell a story. If I tell you that you're going to play a scene and I don't tell you whether the other character is your mother or your lover, it's going to be a weird scene and nobody's going to really know what it means, right? You can't ask your brain to realistically immerse itself if you haven't given it the relevant information. And those three things are the very general, simple steps in that direction. So we design memories for each one of those things. The environment, what's happened in that place in the past where the scene is taking place, that might affect your behavior. What happened right before the scene? Well, what happened to put you in the mood that you're in at the beginning of the scene? It might have been right before the scene, but it might have been a year ago because it's the last time you saw the character, right? So what happened to put you in the mood? And then the last one is relationship. And I find this one to be also very transformative. We go bowling with one friend and we knit with another, right? We have very different interactions with our friends, and so we have different relationships with them, literally, because so creating the memories that you have with that character is another really strong technique to create nuance in your performance, because you can't help but treat the people differently. Okay, we're coming up to steps 5 and 6. Now, step 5 is called mapping the environment. And then step 6 is called directed focus. Okay, so the two foundations of this brain-based perspective are memory design and directed focus. And directed focus is directing your attention to the relevant stimulus that is causing your character to respond. And so we break our script into beats at this time, right? Now, keep in mind, this is step 6. So all that other work happened before we ever look at dialogue. This is the first time we're looking at dialogue. So step 6, we break our scene into beats, and it's very similar to traditional approach. It's when does we say when does your behavior shift?
Yeah.
Right. That's when the new beat is. It's pretty similar, but we're looking now to identify beats in units of attention. So the language of the imagination is sensory information, right? We don't really talk to ourselves very much. We do a little bit. There's something that's called internal dialogue, but auditory digital means self-talk, which is internal dialogue. So that can be a thing, but mostly it's sensory. So much like Kevin was talking about, we identify what is the stimulus that causes you to either speak that line or take that action and shift that behavior, whatever that is. And then we're to our last step of the thing is then to self-assess your preparation. So it is to run the entire performance at your rehearsals, and with the specific intention of looking for bodily sensation each moment, because I believe that you can always notice a sensation at any given moment. And in fact, it's a part of a way we encode memories kinesthetically, is to say, where do you feel that? Point to where you feel that. And actors always go, oh, I feel it right here, or I feel it right here. And there's total scientific validity to having sensations in the body as a result of noticing something, whether it's real or imagined, right? So that's how we test our choices and decisions. And we go through and we run it, and we consciously are noticing sensations in our body. And if there's something not there, then we have to go back and we look at either fixing the stimulus or we fix the past experience.
Cool.
Fix the memory that is causing that behavior. So there you go. I did it in 9 minutes.
You really did. You beat me.